Yes. So before we start, allow me to give you some housekeeping rules. You know that this webinar is being recorded. We will have a Q&A session at the end. If you experience any technical issue, please use the chat, and do know that the presentation will be shared afterwards. So I'm Eglantine Coates, and I'm in charge of the partnership with B Lab Benelux and The Shift, and I'm very excited to be with you today, and even more excited about the huge amount of interest for this session. Thank you very much for joining us today. And as you know, The Shift and B Lab Europe made an agreement. And following this agreement, we committed to be the point of contact for information and support, to explore the opportunities on the market, to help advance the B Corp movement, and to support the existing community in Belgium. So do not hesitate to contact us if you have any comment, suggestion, or question. Today, the agenda will be divided in two parts, one about the practical information about the movement and the tools, and another part on testimonials from B Corps. Our speakers are all very experienced, as they all are certificated B Corporation, and I already thank them for their participation. So first, we will have Kim Swingerdow, responsible for the coordination and development of Streetwise, who will give an introduction on the B Corp movement. Then we will have Andy Schmidt, Managing Director at Pearl Consulting, who will explain the basis of the business impact assessment tool used for the assessment. Then Jean-Michel Lerck, Public Affairs Manager at Chiesi Belgium, will introduce the Sdg Action Manager tool and share how Chiesi uses it to take action on the SDGs. And after that, we will have a panel with 3 certificated B Corporations who will share with us their experiences and advice, but I will introduce them later. Kim, I'll let you start.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm gonna start with sharing my screen so you can see the presentation that I would like to share. So just give me a minute. So normally everybody should see my screen. So good morning. I got the honor to introduce the B Corp movement before diving into some practical agenda points. Just a small introduction. As Eglantine said, I'm Kim. I'm managing partner at Streetwise, which is a B Corp since 2016. And both the company and myself are very passionate about the B Corp movement. So very happy to be able to share some of that passion today. The B Corp movement is around since 2007. And I assume some of you already know a bit about it, but maybe some also have more like something like BWAT. So I think it's good to start with a short movie that actually explains a bit everything that we stand for.
We have a dream that one day all companies will compete not only to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. Others share this dream and have begun to turn the dream into a community. This community signed a Declaration of Interdependence and invited others to join them. Now thousands of companies from 60 countries are turning our community into a global movement to redefine success in business. B corporations use the power of business to solve social and environmental problems. Our largest certified B Corp works to inspire a healthier world through food. A food service company that serves over 1 million meals to low-income public school students every week. A manufacturer that goes green and helps workers move from welfare to a career. An online bookseller that recycled used books and funds local libraries and global literacy. An outdoor apparel company that stewards the environment. an ice cream company that maintains its mission post-sale. B Corp is a certification that helps consumers identify these change makers, and investors make money and make a difference. As a community, we are passing laws around the world, creating a new kind of company that serves society and shareholders. We are leading a global movement of people using business as a force for good. Join us. Be the change.
So as you could hear, and as I mentioned in the beginning, B Corp is here since 2007, and it's actually part of a historic global culture shift about the role that business should play in society. And this global culture shift is underway, we think, to harness the power of business to help address society's greatest challenges and to build an inclusive economy. But if we look at today, we are far from a reality where this way of doing business is a status quo. And so the shift that we want to realize requires actually systems change on a large scale. And for doing that, there are actually two conditions. On the one hand, we need to recognize that the current system is not working for everybody. I think there's more than evidence for that if you look at these pictures. And the second condition is that we need to provide alternatives and prove the existence of viable alternatives. So if we look at today, we see the needs, and we also feel the momentum. If you look at the 21st century, that the system is changing. There are still steps to take, but the system is really changing, and we are moving towards a 21st century model that is focused on stakeholder value rather than shareholder value. And just to give a bit of a contrast, the old model, as we call it, the economic model that we call the 20th century shareholder model value, was really focused on the few and on the short term, where the 21st century stakeholder value model really should be there for everybody, should be focused on the long term, should be inclusive and regenerative in nature. And business plays a crucial role in this. That is what we are convinced about. And many people also expect business to take the lead in this and to show that they are not just focused on making profit, but also actively can contribute to solving some of the social and societal problems in society that we all face today. Certified B corporations, they are the forefront of the system change. And therefore, B Corp is much more than a certification. It's really a global movement of like-minded businesses that have one clear goal. And that clear goal is to make the system change real and achievable. And to reach the goal that we see, we see different steps. The starting point is, of course, building a huge community of 1,000 and more credible business leaders. And those we call the B Corp companies. But next to that, the B Corp movement creates also the tools that make it easy for businesses to join the movement, to inspire the masses, and to include all these stakeholders in this change. As you can see, the movement already exists of more than 3,000 B Corps spread over more than 70 countries and covering 150 industries. And on the picture, you can see the Belgian B Corps and also the partners of other B Corps that have an affiliate of or another company within Belgium. And we're growing fast. Now, what is a B Corp then actually? Certified B corporations we call them impact leaders, and they meet the highest standards of societal and environmental performance, but they're also very transparent through the B Impact report, and they're also accountable for the goals they set and the communication that they do. Just a picture of some known B Corps that probably ring a bell, I would assume, and also some subsidiaries that are certified B Corps, and that means that the mother company not always is a B Corp, but their subsidiaries can also apply to go through the B Corp assessment. And that's actually the way to become a B Corp. There's a B Corp assessment, and it's Andy who will take over from me now to give you a bit more explanation on how you can take as a company the first step to become a B Corp. So Andy, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Kim, for that wonderful introduction. And yeah, it is a fast-growing movement here and around the world. Bear with me for just a moment as I fumble with screen sharing. I hope everyone should be seeing that now. As Kim mentioned, the B Corp movement and community is many things, and at the one part of the backbone of it, I would say one of the core elements of it is the B Impact Assessment, which is a very powerful, holistic, comprehensive management tool that helps organizations understand, improve, measure, and communicate their impact in the world. And that's what I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so giving you a very high-level introduction to. I think from my objective here, this is for individuals who haven't used the B Impact Assessment before. Hopefully it'll give you enough insight to want to look into it more deeply. And for those of you who have had a look at it, hopefully it'll give you a little bit of the structure, and it'll help you kind of leapfrog how you're able to use it, leverage it, and maximize it in your organization. Just real quickly, I'm part of the team at Pearl Consulting. We are ourselves a B Corp. We've been a B Corp since 2017. We're a sustainability and impact consultancy, and we really believe in the power of this framework and this community and this movement to create the change we believe the world needs. And so we've really honed in building out an expertise over the last number of years of helping companies use the B Corp framework to do those things I said before, understand and improve their impact in the world. And we're very fortunate to work with a number of pioneering organizations who are really using business as a force for good. Companies like Kizzy, who we'll get to hear from later, Innocent Drinks, who's been a big champion and ambassador within the B Corp community and movement, and many other wonderful organizations. So B Impact Assessment, we'll get into it at a slightly another level, but you see here in this wonderful little graphic, the 5 main impact areas, and you can think about these as impact areas or stakeholder groups that you understand better, reflect upon how your business activities impact them. They are governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. And the B Impact Assessment is a free and confidential tool. Any organization can use it. There's no cost to signing up, getting online, signing up, and just starting to have a go at it. You can use it to look at one part of your business. You might want to get some ideas around good practices in relation to workers or the environment, or you can go through it in its entirety to get a holistic view. It's one of the most widely used tools in the world. There's over 100,000 organizations around the world now that are signed up and using the B Impact Assessment in a number of different ways. And it really helps companies apply the same level or similar levels of management, discipline, and rigor that you might be used to applying to, say, financial performance, to areas around social and environmental performance. So it's really making it, if I try to simplify it quite a bit, it is a questionnaire, a survey. A company, as you go through the B Impact Assessment, you're really walking through a series of questions, and those questions oftentimes it's actually a very natural exercise in reflection for you to think about what you do as a business and what you might want to do differently. It's also, I oftentimes think about it as a a library of global good practices and that any company can learn about and then choose which ones to implement. So you get a chance to reflect, you get the chance to learn, and then you can use that reflection and learning and combine it into a roadmap. Companies we work with oftentimes go through the B impact assessment, understand where they're at, and coming out of that is an action plan, a roadmap for the year ahead, or even sometimes a multi-year journey. We'll come back to this in a minute, but just briefly, you can think about it in two different big chunks: scored section of the B impact assessment and the unscored. Starting with the unscored, that is a number of disclosure questions that are asked that are meant to foster a culture and a mindset of transparency. So it might ask about higher risk from a social and environmental impact perspective, industries that a company is in, or activities or products or services. And every company has to go through that. If you're looking to become a certified B Corporation, you don't earn any points over there. The other side, the scored points, this is where the scored is broken into both operational impact and impact business model sections. And we'll go a little bit into more detail on that in just a minute. But essentially, you can be recognized for a bit of points. Sometimes it's a small percentage of a point, sometimes it's multiple point, for good practices that you have as an organization chosen to implement. And we're going to go through just a quick run through of some examples in the questions in just a little bit, because for me, that's always where it kind of clicks on what this is about, seeing the questions and realizing how it could help you think about how to build your business better. So a little bit about the design of the B impact assessment. And I'm going to walk through a couple of these, just a couple of these in the interest of time at another level, but it's meant to be both comprehensive and positive, meaning that it covers a lot of ground. And it's positive in that it rewards you for good things you're doing. It doesn't penalize you for things you're not doing. It's both standardized and adaptive. So it's standardized, so there is a certain bar that you're kind of meeting across the globe, depending, kind of independent of where you're based or the size of your company or the industry you're in. But it's also adaptive. So when you create your B impact assessment profile, you get set up on a track. That track is dependent upon the size of your company in terms of employees, the sector and industry that you're in, and where you are in the country. So even though it's somewhat uniform in some ways, it does adapt based upon the specifics of an organization. So I think, no two companies are typically seeing the exact same set of questions. It's objective and dynamic, meaning the questions are meant to be verifiable. Eventually, should you choose to go on and pursue B Corp certification, you would have your assessment reviewed by a standards analyst. And that standards analyst is going to ask you for some of the questions to verify, document the claims that you've made. So it's verifiable in that sense, and it is continually improved based upon feedback from the community and global standards and changes in stakeholder expectations. So it updates every 3 years, and it therefore is meant to embed a mindset and culture of continuous improvement. This isn't something that you do once and then walk away from it. It's a journey. And then finally, inspiring and educational. It is challenging, and it is that library of best practices. And just to dive into that a little bit further, and we're going to leave a few minutes at the end, I think, for any questions that arise along the way. So please maybe put those into the chat or save those, and we'll carve out a little space for that at the end here. So in that design from comprehensive and positive, as we mentioned, again, you don't get penalized for not doing things. You get recognized in a positive way by being rewarded with a point in the B Corp framework or an element of points for good practices that you choose to implement. And so for an example, there's a question about how your company fosters inclusive work environments. And this is the question. And then there's a list of 5 things that are good practices in this area of inclusive work environments that you choose from, and you earn a fraction of a point for each of those that you do. Again, to the kind of design element of being inspiring and educational. And as I mentioned, I like to think of it as a library of good practices. Here's another example question. Do you have any programs or policies in place to reduce the environmental footprint caused by travel or commuting? And again, there's a drop down of a handful of good practices that you can choose from to do. And you know, when you're going through this the first time, this may be something you've never thought about before. You weren't even aware that it was a good practice, or something you've considered, but you put it to the side because of other demands, maybe because of global lockdown, or you didn't know how to get started. So even just looking at those possible answers is oftentimes a way to get ideas and inspirations and examples like, oh, there's something concrete. We could have a video conference policy as the preferred way of connecting, and we only get on a train or a plane when we've eliminated that possibility. Or we offer subsidized public transport to our employees. And then you see there the learn in the upper left-hand corner of that question. When you click on learn, for a number of the questions in the BIA, you get a lot more information, some examples, some explanations, even links to resources, best practice guides, templates. So it's a really rich, practical, action-oriented resource for you to kind of map out your own journey. Okay, so I mentioned previously the 5 pillars of the B impact assessment. This is just going a little bit deeper level on how that the subcategories under each of those areas. And I'll let you read through those so you can get a sense of them, but some things you might typically think of, for example, under workers, it's around how they are compensated, looking after their health and wellness, their career development, are they happy and engaged? Community includes diversity and inclusion, both internally and within your supply chain. Are you creating economic impact for your local community? What are you doing around corporate citizenship, advocacy, corporate giving, and environmental, your systems you have in place, and then specific impact areas around air, climate, water, land, and life. And then on customer stewardship are things like data protection. Does your customer have a voice? How do you gauge if they are satisfied? And these are what we call the operational impact questions. And so operational impact questions you can think about as the questions that pretty much any organization, company are going to have the opportunity to be recognized for good practices. It may be the same for a sustainability consultancy, to a pharmaceutical company, to a magazine kiosk at the end of the street. This might be things about paying your workers a living wage, might be about using renewable energy, might be about keeping customer data safe. In addition to that, the B impact assessment also has impact business model opportunities. And companies that are structured in a way or have designed their products or their services or their practices specifically to contribute or overcome environmental and social challenges get rewarded in the B Corp framework via these impact business model questions and points. And there's oftentimes the opportunity to earn a larger amount of points on this side, because it's meant to design, it's really meant to encourage companies to think about how you can leverage your unique resources to be a force for good. So an example for this, as a sustainability consultancy, under the customer's side at the very bottom, we get recognized for having impact improvement for our clients through our customers. And there's a number, these are harder to get recognized for, but it is, again, helping you to think there's a lot of opportunity for innovation in the impact business model side of things. It's where companies can really rethink how they're doing business and maybe come up with new products, new services, new structures that offer them access to new markets, product services offerings that they didn't have before. It's a really powerful tool. And here, I'm just going to flip in the final minutes here. I want to flip through a few questions that I think really help bring it to life. This is from the governance section. Does your board of directors or equivalent body, are they reviewing social and environmental performance once annually at least? And from the community on supplier side, are you engaging your tier 1 suppliers around their social and environmental performance? A couple of questions from the environmental section. Do you have a formal system in place to monitor, manage, measure waste use, energy, water, and carbon emissions? Are you using low impact renewables? And if so, how much? How many of your company's managers identify as women? Again, a number of questions around diversity and inclusion. And what percentage of your employees are satisfied or engaged? Looking at the workers section. And then finally, real quickly, just giving you a glimpse of the platform itself. This is what, when you register a profile for the B Impact Assessment, and in the upper right, you've got the website there, bimpactassessment.net. This is the kind of main view that you will see. And very quickly, navigating down to the left side, if you click in the B Impact Assessment, this is where you get the different pillars of questions. You can see how many questions per section. And if we were to just jump into one of the sections, say the customers section, you can see then how it's categorized in subcategories and the questions underneath that. And this is a very high level introduction to a very useful, practical, action-oriented tool. So yeah, there's a lot more that one can learn about it, spend time on it. My recommendation for you would be to carve out in your calendar an hour over the next 10 days to go sign up to the B Impact Assessment if you haven't already, and just take an hour to play around with it, give it a try, see what you learn from it, what value it can bring. And here's a wonderful resource, this knowledge base. So there's the website in the upper right-hand corner where B Lab has compiled a ton of resources all about how to use, navigate, maximize the B Impact Assessment, a number of resource guides around and after that. And I know, and B Lab has also a number of resources online in addition to this, additional webinars. And I know that the Shift in their partnership with B Lab are planning to go deeper on the B Impact Assessment in the year ahead. So I'd say to watch the space with the Shift. And that is it for me. I'm going to maybe just stop sharing for a moment so that I can open it up to see if there's any questions that have come across, or if...
Yes, thank you. There is some. Could you use the Q&A to ask your question, and we will respond to them at the end of the session. Thank you very much. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, you bet. Great. So keeping those to the ends, then I will, with that, turn it over, give the floor to Jean-Michel, who's going to share Kizzy's experience with the Sdg Action Manager. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Andy. Okay, my video is here, so great. I'm quickly going to get my timer just for me to stop talking at the right moment. So hello, everybody. I'm Jean-Michel, and first of all, I would like to thank Eglantine and the Shift for inviting us. I'm the Public Affairs Manager of Kizzy in Belgium, and I'm going to talk you through a bit of the Sdg Action Manager and a bit on who we are. But I will keep the bulk of it for my colleague. So most of you know already Kizzy, of course, but for the few of you that don't know Kizzy, I would like just to tell you that we are a pharmaceutical company. We are active in 4 main domains. That's typically something pharmaceutical companies do when they introduce themselves. They say where they're active in. We're very much active into respiratory, meaning everything that's asthma and COPD. In neonatology, meaning the newborns and the premature babies, one of the very few companies active in that domain. In rare disease, so diseases for the few, for really limited a number of patients, and also in special care, which is also a niche. We are an innovative pharmaceutical company, meaning that we value very much innovation, and we try to bring always new therapies and treatments to patients. That is our goal, our mission. And we have around 6,000 employees worldwide, and you see then on the bottom left who is our Belgium numbers, meaning that we started in 2010 in Belgium. So last year was our 10th anniversary. We started with some 20 people, and now we're approximately 80 people. Yeah, we have growing our footprint in Belgium, and that's also something that pharmaceutical companies do. They always say how proud they are, and we are proud of investing in clinical trials, and this is what we do also in Belgium. So just to give you also a bit of a sense why we became a B Corp, that's something that my colleague Paulo will go into more deeply, I think, in the panel. But just to say that we are B Corp certified since 2019, and our program, which is called the We Act program, which serves as an as a tool to make SDG and B Corp alive in Belgium. So just a very quick, I'm not going to go over it. We are in that, we didn't say that already, but in Italy, which where our headquarters are, we are a benefit corporation, meaning that we have a legal status, a legal form of a benefit corporation. This is not possible yet in Belgium, but we are in the bylaws stating that we are busy doing what you are interested in. We are, as a mission, really a benefit corporation. So we chose to be a B Corp in 2018. In 2019, we were awarded the B Corp. So that's the previous nice presentation of Andy. We did all the questions. We are up for recertification. So don't think that once you're there, it's finished. It's about recertification also, luckily. And so it's really important for us because what we aim to do is really, we really wanted to innovate in sustainability and processes. We wanted to increase the quality of life, the development of local community, and of course, collaborate with all stakeholders. So once that we had the B Corp certificate, which is the talk of Andy before, we decided to also use the Sdg Action Manager tool inside Kizzy as really some kind of an internal management tool for measuring our impact and continuing to measuring our impact. And actually the SDGs have always been a starting point for us when it came to sustainability in the broad sense of the word. So we identified already in 2018 which SDGs were really of importance to us. So that were 9 that we targeted. So you will see them below with a little blue box. And we said, yeah, let's start with these 9 SDGs to build our sustainability, and also to be B Corp story, and to really say that, well, on these 9 we really want to make an impact, because we feel that this is where we want to have an impact. And in 2020, the UN Global Compact and B Lab came together to make the Sdg Action Manager. So in comparison with the B Impact Assessment, it's another tool. So it's a different tool. So it's not exactly the same, although a lot of questions are overlapping. So don't worry, you won't do the work twice. But actually, the Sdg Action Manager, it's a tool that provides all types of business with an opportunity to learn, manage, and directly improve their sustainability performance. You will say, well, that's not really different than what we just heard. Well, it is, because it's actually more focused around SDGs, while the impact assessment is really more focused around the 5 pillars that Andy gave. So I'm quickly going to go a bit over the Sdg Action Manager. So why would you, as a company, why would you do this? Well, I think it's an important tool, because first of all, it sets your starting point. It sets out the SDGs as a starting point. It sets, where are you today? It puts a benchmark on your company today. And then it helps you to understand and share your impact. It tells you in which SDG area you're doing a great job, and where you want to have more impact, because that's naturally more close to your own business. You will see that later also for us. It's really easy to set goals and to track the improvement, meaning that you can think forward and really say, okay, I want to have this as an ambition as my company, and really go forward and to dream a bit on improving your impact. Once you have done all this, I think it's also a good tool to collaborate across your company. So it's also, let's say, an internal management or internal tool, really to in Dutch they say to put all the violins together, the violen gelijk strijken, and to really put everybody on the same page. And then, of course, it's a learning tool, like I said. I mean, you really learn to how to work with SDGs, the importance of the SDGs, what impact you have, how you can have an impact. So it's really also about learning all this. And in the end, and I think this has been mentioned also by Kim, it's also about being in a movement. So you have of course, everything as the B Corp movement, but also with Sdg Action Manager, you pave the way to say, I want to do something, and you can communicate also about it and say that you're improving your impact and you're making much more impact with the Sdg Action Manager. So I'm quickly going to get into, okay, see my time, perfect. When you look at how it works, basically what you first do is you do a baseline. The baseline is based on the 10 principles from the UN Global Compact, and it goes through and gives you some rough scores. And then you can, for all the SDGs that you find important, have a different set of questions to measure your impact, meaning how much, and it's indicated in percentage, how much do you contribute as a company to these SDG. And so, as I said, you can put in a baseline, and you can then also try to improve and set out some new objectives, and then in a couple of years look back and say, how did we improve? How did we make more impact in our SDG? So this is an example for Chiesi, where you see, of course, that in our SDG 3, the good health and well-being, we score very high, because of course our business model is about making patients healthier, making them a healthier life, and we also very much focus on everything that is well-being. So this is for the 2 others. And then, for example, you will see that this is then, if you zoom into the baseline, you'll see that, for example, we didn't score very high, you might say, on the human rights. But that's normal. But, well, you can explain that by the fact that our operations are located in areas where the topic is not really an issue, and that if you really want to score high on this, you need to take an active stand and to do more. But on the other hand, you can see that everything that's related to social and environment impact, we do have a lot of points. So that's a good one. Again, on this is how it looks like then once you answer the questions. On SDG 3, you see that our business model, of course, like I said, is the most important factor for us to have a lot of points there. But you also see that everything related to our internal operations and our collective action, so how you act with society, it's really high. So we're really proud, and that's also something again that you can communicate to the external world and saying that you are doing a good job on this SDG. Yeah, so voila. And then this is actually, so in the beginning I said that as Chiesi we took some 9 SDGs to focus on, and this is actually very interesting because of course we focused on 9, but we go further than that, and we said, yeah, let's look at every SDG and measure our impact. And if you look at this, you see that for example, on the SDG 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions, we also have a very high score, which is something that we didn't really expect. So it wasn't in our focus, but we do see that there we have a high score, meaning that we're having a high impact, which also is very good. So I think what's really important is once you saw this and you saw the B impact assessment of Andy, you might say, well, what is the difference? Well, first of all, the Action Manager is really focused around all the SDGs. So the starting point is the SDGs, and the impact assessment is focused around the 5 pillars: community, workers, consumer, environment, and governance. And I think, of course, this translates, and the SDG also translate in the B impact assessment, but here you really have more of a concrete overlook of per SDG what you're doing. So it's really more focused on the SDGs, and it's also a bit more comprehensive in giving you a 360 vision and impact. So it means that because you're going really broad, you can really go more granular and see per SDG what your impact is as a company and where you can improve your impact. Of course, I should also say that the difference between the B impact assessment and Sdg Action Manager is, of course, the B impact assessment is audited and has this third party looking into it, which is, of course, a difference with this tool. This tool, you can totally do it as your company, and you can fill it in. Of course, there is no audit of no third party looking into in what you answered is right or wrong. So of course, for that, I think for us as Chiesi, the B impact, the BIA is really important because we really want to be different. We want to have this third party auditing our activities. As an internal tool, we really use the Sdg Action Manager because it can help us to be more specific on concrete actions we want to take in the specific areas of the SDGs. So I think, yeah, these are for us the added value of the Sdg Action Manager. I'm doing a sales talk here about the Sdg Action Manager, but we do believe in it. So it's about measurement, accessibility, understanding, improvement, and reporting. And if you look at measurement, it's really effective in to measure how your company contributes to the SDGs. It's also really accessible, and like I said, there's a common platform with the B impact assessment, meaning that you don't have to do all the questions all over, but there is a big overlap. It really helps you also to understand your business model and how it impacts the SDGs, and also how the interconnection is between the SDGs. Like I said, we did very well on justice peace, something we didn't expect, but that's something that we learned from out of the tool. And then, of course, it puts, like I said, it's an internal management tool. So it really gives you a lot of input on how to improve your social environmental performance. So it's something that you can, update and use internally to see, okay, this is our point, and we really want to go there. And it's how do you start with that? How do you improve your impact? Well, this is a good tool to do that. And finally, it's when it comes to reporting, you will see that in our sustainability report at corporate level, at the group level, there is really it's full of the SDGs, because we really think this is one of the most important ways to improve impact on society and on the environment. I think it really reinforces the whole reporting aspect, and it puts you gives you as a good tool as a company to report on what you're doing and to showcase your impact on society and on the environment and on the other aspects. So that's it for me. It was a bit quicker than Andy, but if you have any more questions, please ask me later. I think my colleague Paulo will also tell you a bit more about our story. And then, if I would say also to close, a final remark, like Andy, I would say that it's also about just doing it. So I would, if I were you, just go for it and try to work with the tool, and don't be discouraged by the questions, but see it as an energizer to improve and to really measure your impact.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel, and I can only agree that just try to do it. I put the link in the chat. I do that again. Just have a look, try, and yes, go for it. So thank you very much for your very inspiring testimonial and explanation. Now we will have the panelists who will share more their experience. I just would like to start with the shift and explain you why we decide to support this movement. So as a Belgian network for sustainability, we really believe that business can be a force for good. And we really like the energy and the enthusiasm of this movement. It's really, it's much more than a certification. Of course, it's a certification of the company, and it's a very holistic approach, and we think that it's a very interesting way to assess your performance and your impact. And we like the fact that we assess your positive impact. And so as a non-profit, we really support this movement. But now I would like to hear from the for-profit organization why they decide to start this journey. And I will just present you the panel. So, I don't know. Yeah, so we will have Kim from Streetwise, Paolo from Crazy Group, and Clara from the Skate Room. And I will start with Kim by asking you, Kim, would you just briefly introduce your organization and just tell us why did Streetwise have decided to embark on this process? And what does it bring to the organization? And I will also ask to you, because in the Q&A, there is a lot of SME who ask themselves, is it not too heavy? It's not only for big organizations like Crazy or Danone. We hear a lot about Danone. So Kim, maybe could you just explain why you start and why all sizes of organization can do this?
Yeah. With pleasure. So good morning. I'm Kim. I'm a managing partner at Streetwise. For those who don't know, and for us, becoming a B Corp company was actually inherent on the type of company that we are. Streetwise is part of mobileschool.org, which is and we contain of two business units. I think that's the most easy way to explain it, because we're a hybrid company. And on the one hand, we have a business unit that is called Street Smart, and that is working worldwide with street children on developing self-esteem, on developing empowerment, and making them aware of the fact that although they're in a very shitty situation, they do have talents, they do have competencies, and we really work on developing those talents, developing those competencies, and make them make a conscious choice on how they want to evolve in life within the difficult context that they are. And that's one business unit, and that's a non-profit. And next to that, there's another business unit that is Streetwise. We're a training company with our main business in Belgium and the Netherlands. And we really give leadership and talent development training in companies in Belgium and the Netherlands. But we use actually the insights or the context of the streets as a metaphor for the context that businesses are in today. A very complex, very disruptive, a lot of change. And we kind of made a methodology based on the skills that we saw, the youngsters that we work with on the mobile school part. We translated them in a methodology to work with companies in Belgium and the Netherlands on leadership development and talent development. So being B Corp is actually just part of our DNA. So for us, it was really a natural evolution when the B Corp movement became more and more a global movement, and also more and more became popular in Belgium. There was for us no hesitation in trying or in assessing the first time. And it is true, it's quite an investment to go through the B Corp to do the B assessment or the B impact assessment, and especially if you're as small as SME as we are as well, because we're with between 15 and 20 people in total. But I really do, we're the proof that it's possible, and it's about, I think it's about focus, and it's also about preparation. If you look at the questions up front, and you really see it as a process and not as a one time fix all moment, and you take time to go through the type of questions, to think about what the answers could be. Then once you start filling it in, and once you decided now we go for it, it's quite, the process is quite okay, I feel. And there was also a question, I think, in the chat on what would be a cost-efficient way of not filling it out yourself. I do think it's added value for a company. If you go through the process yourself and you fill it in yourself, then you also get the score. You immediately feel the points where you did do well, the points that you need to develop. And we integrate that also every year into our strategic plan. We always look at the B impact assessment score and the elements that weren't that great or that need some improvement, and we integrate them in our strategic plan of the next year. So if you would outsource that part of the assessment, you also would lose, I think, a bit the opportunity of really making it part of your DNA and part of your strategic plans, which is added value, and which is also one of the main goals of the B Corp movement and the B impact assessment. But for us, it's great also being part of the movement, being around like-minded people, being able to share, to soundboard, to discuss, is really, I think, added value, and especially in a small SME, because I think that's maybe the biggest advantage, to become part of this movement and to be able to share your thoughts, your ideas, your like-minded thinking with then big corporates, but also with other SMEs, and see how you can move towards each other and really support the movement in Belgium. So that's from my side. I don't know if there are other questions or you want me to tell something else, Eglantine?
No, maybe during the Q&A session, maybe people will have more questions for you. I think it was very interesting to have in our panel, we have different kind of organization, and it showed that it's possible and accessible for everyone. So thank you very much. Now I will ask to Paolo. I will put my camera so you can see me. So Paolo Sacco, who is European Corporate Public Affairs Manager at Chiesi, and that's another kind of organization, so it's very interesting to hear from you. And first, what did Chiesi have decided to embark, what it's bring to your organization, and also to reflect to the question in the Q&A, if you have good practice ingredient to how to implement tools in your company. What other question I see in the Q&A? Yes, just sharing your experience and your and if you have some tips for us.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Eglantine, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really pleased to be here with you to provide some case directly from Parma, our headquarters, about our will to support the community, the B Corp community that's growing all across Europe. And I'm really happy to see that it's the same also in Belgium, and the level of interest of this event show it. So before going directly into the certification process, I would like to make, Jean-Michel already said a lot about the group. I would like to make, to stress 3 points that for me are very important to understand Casey journey and the purpose behind our decision to go through the certification. First thing is that, as you may know, there are some legal status all across the world, and in particular in US and in Italy and now in France, that give the possibility to company like Casey that put sustainability at the heart of their business model for a long time to make contractual the commitment for sustainability. And this is mainly the regulation that we saw also in the beginning related to the benefit corporation. So Casey has incorporated in our article of incorporation our double purpose model. And why that's so important? It's important for us because, again, we are a family-owned company with a very strong ethics, where the family really foster very straightforward. It was the process of deciding to become a B Corp because it was coming from our shareholder that are fully committed. That's extremely helpful. And then when you are a big corporation like us, the point is that how I can be sure that I'm delivering the impact that I want to deliver when I changed my legal status, so I make it contractual and binding for our top management to consider sustainability in every decision that we make. And in this frame, let's say B Corp certification and the B impact assessment was considered, and it's still considered the best tool. It's a tool like no other in the space. It's the best way to be sure that you are monitor, understanding your impact. That is maybe the first step. So first understanding the impact, monitor progress, identify challenges, and clearly define the road forward in terms of where the organization should go and understand. So for us, the certification is really the tool, the preferred tool that we have at this stage. And as Jean-Michel showed also with the Sdg Action Manager, is a tool that talks very much with other framework of measurement that we consider as extremely important. What's the value for us? First point, as I said, it's a management tool, and this is the key factor. But there are other things that the B Corp journey and B part belonging to the movement bring us in terms of brought us in terms of value. First, that I have in mind is the great mobilization of all our employees around the topic. There is a great, let's say, feeling of being part of a movement that is doing good things all across the world, and that makes our attraction externally, but also our retention of talent extremely easy compared to the past. So we really identify with our employees, educate our employees to be sure that everybody has the right mindset, where they understand that we are now a company for benefit that want to deliver both share value both for shareholders and stakeholders. The other point that was extremely that it is still extremely interesting for us in this certification process and this acting as B Corp is the level of interaction that we have now with our stakeholder in general. And when it comes to stakeholder, it's not only local community or our patients, our KOLs. We are a pharma company, so we have healthcare professionals also part of the stakeholders, but we are thinking to others, like for instance the supply chain. And if I think and I see this group of SMEs that are wondering why I should join the movement, why I should get the certification, I can tell you that, for instance, in Casey, we have a code of interdependence that is requested to all our supplier and partners worldwide. In this code, there are some binding requests that we make to our supply chain in terms of how they are approaching and they are working on sustainability topics that for us is extremely important. And just to give you an example that I understood in a discussion with a colleague from the procurement three weeks ago, they told me that now 25% of the assessment is based on sustainability credential of our supplier. So when it comes, should I do it or not? It's not only, again, with the double purpose, it's not only because I want to save, let's say, the planet and help the society to fight against climate emergency, inequalities worldwide, but there is also, let's say, a financial interest in doing this direction that is very strong, and that's for us is very important to explain this very clearly also. Another point that for me it's relevant to share with you is that the B Corp certification is not an easy path. I mean, I do not want, there are challenges. This is very much in line with, let's say, the B Corp approach, the fact that we want to be transparent, and we should also say that there are challenges also for big corporation as we are. Everything is not easy. And I think that from the beginning, the major factor of concerns was the fact that you have this positive pressure around you in improving. You said it before, Eglantine, the B Corp is a certification, is not an arrival point. It's really a starting of a journey when you want to improve every day your impact in the society, for the society, for the environment, and equally for your shareholder. That's, I think, the major challenge, to understand that whatever you do, you will do more later and later, but at the same time, the trade-off is that your business will be more resilient, is everywhere outside now, from a financial point of view, stakeholders, customers, they all want to see more sustainability in the way, more sustainable business around. So this is the major challenge. There are a lot of talks about reputation in terms of leading. For us is something that, again, it's for sure something that we recognize. We see immediately a high increase in our reputation. People are very much interested now in getting to know about this big pharmaceutical. You know that the reputation of pharmaceutical group is not the best across the world. Big pharmaceutical group deciding to big. I mean, we are mid-sized in our sector, but again, a big corporation deciding to move in this space. And we see this reputation. For us, is not, again, a goal in itself, but it's really helpful in shaping the environment in the same direction we are going, where sustainability should be considered really a pillar in everything, the public decision making, economical decision, and institution. Again, all these challenges could be overcome only through education of our people, and it means that we have very huge program like the We Act Day. It's a global program where we train 1 day per year all the people within Chiesi on what we are doing. We showcase what we are doing. We increase the understanding, and that's I think the key factor that should be considered when joining the movement. Be sure that everybody is on board. Everybody understood the points. That again, we are a for benefit organization, and the importance of the tools from the community, from the B Corp and the B Impact Assessment that help us in going in this direction. I don't know if there are a specific question that I saw that most of them was about the burden, the potential burden. We are not, as Chiesi, again, the best place to reply to it, because we have an entire team. So for us, it will be pretty heavy. But at the same time, I understood that the level of scrutiny from the being aspect changed also very much compared to the size of the company. So again, what I can say is that we will value as Chiesi very much all our supplier and all our supply chain that will bring the same approach. We will really want to support the movement also in practically and not only working together.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paolo. And indeed, maybe during the Q&A, I will explain what we are doing now with the community and how we are organizing the buddy system to support the more small organization. So of course, big organizations have a team for that. But with the Belgium community, we are starting to create buddy system and a way to support, and we are in contact with a lot of university to create also a link to organize internship to support organization who cannot have resource to start just the certification. But first I will welcome Clara from the skate room. And Clara, I would let you yourself, but I will not ask you why you start these things, because Kim and Paolo already inspire us very much about that. But just what happened when you maybe share with us, so you get the certification and what?
Yes, thank you, Eglantine. And I can only reflect also on what Kim and Paolo already said. And I also would like to raise that there is indeed a very energetic dynamic at the moment in the Belgian movement. So we're really happy to be a part of growing that and fostering that movement. But just maybe quickly to introduce myself, my name is Clara and I am Impact Manager at the Skate Room. We are a small Belgian-based company, and we actually, our mission is to make art for social impact. And how we do that is that we produce art edition on skateboard decks. So ultimately to be put on the wall. I should have had one with me, but anyway, so it's a very nice project, but the core of our business is actually to be supporting the social skate community around the world. So basically we support NGOs that work around, that use skateboarding actually as a tool for empowerment and for development for youth in all regions in the world, in Europe, but also internationally. So this is really at the core of what we do. And for us, it was, we started in 2014, and it was kind of, as Kim said, also a very logical next step for us to get certified. And I would say the biggest value of this certification is that it's very holistic. It doesn't look only at the product of your company, or if you're a service company at your service, but it looks at the entire operations of a company and how it impacts most of the stakeholders that it operates with. So I think that's a big value to this certification. Now, maybe to reply maybe to Eglantine's question on what's next, actually, when you certify, what happens next, because that's very important. As you said, having the certification is just being selected to the Olympic Games, but then after you still have a long way to go, and there's still so much you can do, which is also not always an easy task. So for the skate room, we got certified in July 2019. And we were, of course, it was a celebration. Everyone was really happy because it was a recognition of the efforts we had put into our social business model and those little practices that we had put in place through the years. So it was a big celebration and recognition. We were very proud in the end. But our question was, what do we do now? Like, we have the certification, but it's a very dynamic process that you can go into if you put the necessary resources. And also it's a certification where you need to recertify every 3 years. So that's very important because the certification that companies who certified won't stay at a status quo. They actually still can grow. And that's the most important part, I think, of how we have built the certification at the skate room. So basically, we were wondering what we can do, and if you look into the BIA, so into the questionnaire that you have to fill in to get certified, and if you actually read between the lines, you can use this certification or this platform, this tool, as a framework. And that's actually what we started doing. And I didn't do it by myself and just, okay, this is how we need to do it. Actually, there was a big question mark, and it was a bit overwhelming as well, because if you look at the BIA, there is 100 things you can do. And so what I did is I got connected with 2 other B Corps, and I think that's a very big value that we had from the community. And we were connected with 2 B Corps from the Netherlands. And so we actually organized monthly calls with those B Corps, and we cooperated on the same challenge that we had. So basically how to build an improvement plan where your whole company and your whole team is engaged into this process. So we worked on a couple of months together. It was a really dynamic and cooperative energy. And in the end, we came out with an improvement plan that I was able to present to the skate room. And where in the process, I was including the entire team into, okay, this is what we can do to go further. Where would you like to prioritize things as a team and in your personal and responsible and respective roles in the company? And so this was really kind of the next phase for us. It was, okay, we were certified, but now we really want to bring something where we can improve our company practices with the BIA and the certification as a framework and as a support. So yeah, definitely I would say the fact that you have, by certifying, you first have a performance assessment of your company. So you look at your strengths, but you also actually find your weaknesses. And that's where you can start building your improvement plan. It's looking at your weaknesses, what can you do? And then if you really look into the BIA, you find best practices, you find examples on how other companies have done it. And so there is a whole support as well behind the BIA to continuously improve your company's practices. And then, yeah, one aspect that I would like to also raise is that being a B Corp, as you understand, it's a journey. So it's something that is not static, and you continuously can if you put the necessary resources into it, you can continuously improve. And then, as I said, it's also being part of a community of like-minded businesses, and that's really something you can choose to be part of. There is workshops organized. There is a lot of cooperation and a lot of sharing of resources between the big corporations. You don't feel lonely, actually. And sometimes maybe in impact or sustainability department, you have a lot of things you can do. And when you can discuss that with other companies, it's really an added value. So I think, yeah, being part of that community is also life after the certification, and you can choose to be proactive in it. You can choose to be less proactive in it. But there is this option for you as a B Corp. So I hope I have added some value to the conversation, because Kim and Paolo have already given a big overview of what being a B Corp is. But definitely life after the certification is very engaging and can be very inspiring. You just need to dedicate some time into it and some resources for sure. Because change cannot happen overnight, and you have to also have leaders within your company to raise that voice and to bring the voice about B Corp, and making sure that it's shared among your team, and also externally that you can also include all your stakeholders into that movement. So I hope that answered your question, Eglantine, and I'm happy to answer any other questions afterwards.
Thank you, Clara. I don't know if Kim and Paolo, you want to add something. I see in the Q&A that there is quite a lot of question about the community. So maybe I will make a point on that and explain what we did this last month with Kim and Clara and Jean-Michel and Andy and also Arnaud from Innate Motion, who make a comment, who help us a lot also. So just to explain you, so as I said at the beginning of the call, we made an agreement with the Shift and B Lab Europe made an agreement to support the movement. And so what we did, we put the full community together and to see how we can create a dynamism inside Belgium. So today there is B Lab Benelux, and it's an amazing team, very dynamic, but we thought that it was important that we have also local dynamism, peer-to-peer conversation, to have our own info session, to have our own support campaign. And we start with the full community to think how we can do that, what will be what's our projection for 2026, and we create 4 task forces, one about communication and media, and it's Kim who is in charge of this task force, one about bridging, it's Clara who is in charge, one about public affairs, it's Jean-Michel who is in charge of this task force, and one about events, it's Diana from another organization, and the shift is coordinating everything. And just to respond to Sophie, who asked if the Belgium community is very dynamic. She is. It's a very dynamic community, but we are just starting. And yes, I think we can say that it's an official community. I don't know if Kim or Jean-Michel or Clara, you want to add something about what we did the last months?
Yeah, I think maybe also good to know it's a very dynamic community on the one hand, and we have task forces that on a regular basis come together to set new goals and to make sure that the vibe within Belgium around the B Corp movement increases. But we also, for instance, as of the end of this month, every Friday we'll have an informal beer at 4 o'clock, and the ones who want to join and share their thoughts, they can join. If it doesn't fit, then you don't join, but it's a very informal way of sharing some practices, good practices, best practices, and to get connected to each other. So it's definitely an official community, I would call it, with a lot of dynamics, but and with formal moments, but also with informal moments. And I think that is the main added value of the community at this moment, that everybody is like-minded, and we really all in the community want to put Belgium more visible on the map when it's related to the B Corp movement. So yeah, that I just wanted to add something.
No, I can only second that. So great. Just join it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for our society, for your company, and it's a lot of fun. I just have a look to the other question. Lord, I think we would respond to your question. There is one question about the SDG. I don't know if one of the panelists want to respond. Should a company do cherry picking on the SDG or try to be mindful and impactful on all of them?
If you want, I can take it, Eglantine, or Clara, maybe you are more expert than me.
Go ahead, Paolo. I can tell what we did. In Chiesi, we identify, thanks to the process, particularly the materiality analysis, what was the ones where we could have that are most relevant for us and where we can have most impact. So again, sustainability is a process that 360 degrees, and B Corp certification as a journey. It's not a point of arrival. So again, you can choose the one you can improve faster to get within and get the certification, and then improving. I mean, there's no limit to improve for all the others, but you can again choose only the ones that you think are the most relevant for you and where you can provide more impact for the society and the environment. And I'm happy also to jump here and to build on what Paolo just said. I think it's not really an either or question, because in the end, B Corp is every B Corp has as a goal to be contributing with their overarching objective is to be contributing positively to the SDGs. So they are interlinked in a way. And actually, 1 year ago, there was a new tool that was launched in the B Impact assessment, which is a questionnaire you have to fill in. And this tool interlinks your practices and everything that you answer in the BIA with the SDGs. And what's very interesting with this tool is that you are able to translate very practical corporate practices into an international language that now I think a lot of people are aware about the SDGs and they know about it. It's just sometimes very difficult as a company to identify how you contribute to them, and also if you do a lot of things internally, it's a way to communicate to a bigger public on how you contribute to the SDGs. So to me, they're really interlinked, and it's not an either or question. I hope that answers the question, but yeah, they're really interlinked.
Thank you. I will try to merge a different question. There is question about how you can get support if you want to start the journey, and from Wits here, how you can profit from the shared insight from already certificate B Corp. So I think depends of the size of your company. I guess if you are a very big company, you can have your own team who did that, or you can ask very professional consultants. For example, Andy is one of them, of Arno from Innate Motion, or in the call also are also used to support organization. So that's if you have money, or if you want to have support from outside. You also have all the B leaders who can support you in this journey. And I share in the chat how if you want to train yourself, how you can join the next training in Belgium. So another system, and you can contact us at the Shift. We can put you in contact with some intern of some university, because, for example, UC Louvain organize this system that they ask to students to make the assessment inside a company. So it's a good start just to see where you are. You ask to an intern or a student to make that for you. So there is several ways to start this journey depending on the size of your company. And also to respond to the BD system, we are just starting to make a list, but if you contact me, I can also put you in contact with some certificated B corporation who are very happy to support. So at the Shift, we can give you the general information about the certification, but then if you have very specific question about the process and to receive some advice, I can put you in contact with some B Corps. We are just starting this list, but it's ongoing. I don't know if one of you want to add something.
Well, and it's wonderful to hear you list them all out, Eglantine, the opportunities for support for organizations in Belgium. And I think, Kim, you mentioned as well, I think in response to a question about kind of outsourcing the support for the B Corp process. And I think just to be quite realistic about that, I think, first of all, as an external advisor, we very much, and I maybe touch upon another question, which was about how to make sure that through the process you're engaging the entire organization, and it's not just one person who's kind of going through the assessment and certification process. So I think it's actually impossible to outsource it 100%, right? If there's you working with someone who's familiar with the framework and the assessment can help guide you and make sure that you're being very efficient and effective. But to actually formulate the responses, it's I would say impossible to do that thoroughly and outsource it. I mean, it would literally be somebody kind of making things up as a checkbook exercise. So any company we would work with, we would encourage them to engage the wider organization. So oftentimes the beginning of an engagement would be to pull together kind of your cross-functional working group, who's best positioned from a different part of the organization to respond to certain questions. And when you're a smaller organization, you know, we work with companies who are a team of 5, that might be the entire organization, right? But to get everyone engaged in the process, and I think if you're getting used to the B Corp framework for the first time, there's a lot of creativity around the bees in the community. You'll hear teams like the bee team, your beekeepers. Those are oftentimes those internal champions who are then allocated the supply chain questions or the learning and development questions. And then they oftentimes get informed and inspired together, but then they go off and do some work on their own, then you bring them back together. So it should be a journey, a multi-month process. and it should be touching a wide part of the organization. And I think anyone looking to fully outsource this will find that challenging.
Thank you very much. We already have 1.5 hour of session. Maybe we will not do too long, but I just, maybe a last question I will ask maybe to Andy, or maybe you know the response. Is there any plan to Europeanize the questionnaire in the future? We receive a lot of questions about the fact that sometimes it's a bit too much a USA style, and it's a question that comes very often. I'm sure that you have the right answer for that.
Well, I don't. Thank you, and it is a very common question, and I think it's a very, very common impression, and I think it's justified. I mean, this movement came out of the U.S., so there is still some U.S. centricity to some of the questions. At the same time, this version of the B Impact Assessment, which came out in January of 2019, there's been, and we were familiar with the assessment before, and for others that have, I think you will notice there's been some improvements around kind of making it more international, more applicably globally. The next version is due to come up in January of next year. So I think the standards team and the team that develops the tool is taking on that feedback and incorporating it. So so I imagine that we'll only see that improve, especially now. Over half of the certified B Corp community is outside of the US. So it's kind of the international growth will also contribute to that. But in the B Impact Assessment, there's an opportunity you can respond on every single question, you can give feedback. And every time when they're going to update the BIA, they are taking on board thousands of those comments from the users from the assessment itself. And they analyze and try and incorporate that. So my recommendation would be on any specific question where it feels that just doesn't feel right for us in Belgium, for a company in Europe, that sounds very US centric, drop a quick note. The more of those that are fed into there, the more quickly I think we'll see the internationalization of it that we're looking for.
Thank you very much. I think if there is no very, very important question, I will close the session here. Raise your hand if you have a very important question you want to ask. And I will really thanks all the speakers today. It was super interesting, super inspiring. I will share the presentation you did. If it's okay, I will share also the recording. We will make posts. We have a LinkedIn, so please follow the BLab Benelux page on LinkedIn, but we also have a page for the Belgium activity. It's B Corps in Belgium. And you will have news about the new B Corps, the training, the info session, and so on. Thank you very much to Kim, Jean-Michel, Paolo, Clara, and see you soon. And do not hesitate to contact us if you have any question.